Good day, everyone, and welcome to MI3 Let's Talk Mining. My name is Mario Drolet. I am the president of the corporation, and on behalf of our team, we want to wish you welcome to this special presentation. Today, we have the pleasure to have Prismo Metal. And first, we will have a talk with Mr. Alain Lambert, who is the CEO of the company, and also he is with Mr. Steve Robertson, who is the president of the corporation. Gentlemen, very surprised to see that the Fed is leaving the rates unchanged, but this is not the topic today. So let's jump right away with Alain and Steve, and you guys. Thank you very much for being with us today. Let's do a presentation with the latest development. I know we saw news this morning, and to be follow up by a Q&A. I'll be opening the mic after the presentation, and we'll go by order and have some question. Once again, thank you very much, Alain and Steve, and the mic is to you. Merci.
Well, thank you, Mario. Thank you for having us. Great to see you again. We were on the road with Mario and his team last week out east. So I guess what we'll do is we'll give you the 15 to 20-minute version of what Prismo is all about. As Mario said, we issued a news release this morning, and the market reacted quite positively to it. We're happy with that. And so I am the CEO, Steve's the president, as Mario said. I'll go first, say a few words about the background to the company and what we think differentiates us from some of our peers. And then Steve will take us through the two main projects for this year, which are our hot Breccia copper prospect in Arizona, and what we announced this morning that resuming drilling at Palos Verdes, our silver prospect, and it's we're doing that in conjunction with Vizsla Silver. So my background is finance. My background is law. I'm originally a Montrealer who speaks to you from Vancouver. Started my career in 1987 in the market after practicing law for 2 years, and I've been helping companies get finance and access markets since then. Typically, I was outside natural resources. I didn't do any mining deals until I had the luxury, the benefit, and the pleasure to move to Tucson, Arizona in 2015. My wife and I had built a house there, and we went and moved there, try it out for a few years, and I was fortunate to meet a local resident of Tucson, Dr. Peter McGaw, and I also met Dr. Craig Gibson. We all got along and decided to work together and be the founders of what's now Prismo Metals. And we started with the two properties that are in Mexico. So the one highlighted in the middle of the slide and the one on the right. So the one on the right was contributed into the company by Peter McGaw. It's a large orogenic gold play in Sonora State, the kind of play that Peter McGaw is best known for. So kind of very large, very regional, very high level geological concepts, and we took it all the way to drilling since we've been public, and so far everything that Peter was hoping for has been met and then some. And the Palos Verdes property in the middle, we will talk quite a bit about it, and that's in the news today. And early 2023, we optioned 75% interest in a very large copper play in Arizona called Hot Breccia. And that's when I met Steve Robertson. He was associated with the play. He became a technical advisor to our company, and everybody got along so well. We asked him to join the management team of Prismo in April of this year, and as of May 1st, he became part of management. just a few more remarks before I turn it over to Steve. We feel we have a good balance within the company about between successful explorers and capital markets people. I think it takes both to run a successful company. You need the right people, the right projects, and the right timing. And the right people is this mix that I'm mentioning, that you need successful explorers. And what we mean by that is people who have actually found stuff throughout their career. And you got four people listed there on the slide: Steve, Craig, Raphael, and Peter, who have discoveries to their name already. And so they're not looking for their first, they're looking for their next one. And then we have myself that helps with capital markets and raising money and structuring deals and so on and so forth. We're kind of old school guys. We favor large shareholdings as opposed to large salaries. No one on our team has an employment agreement. We don't believe in lifestyle companies. So some of you might be familiar with the model, especially out of Vancouver, where guys get together in a bar and they split up the management team. One guy will be the CEO for $350,000. His buddy will be the chairman for 150, and they'll hire a VPX for 275. Then can't forget the CFO at 175 and his accountant for 125. So we don't subscribe to that. Nobody's on a fixed salary. It doesn't mean we don't make money. It means that when we do work, we get money. As an example, we just finalize and approve the budget for the planned drilling at Palos Verdes we announced today. And of course, in there's money for Craig Gibson because he's going to be on site supervising drilling. So if he's there doing work, we'll pay him. And one of the derivatives of that is you don't unduly dilute shareholders. And so after being public for about 4 years, we only have 53.3 million shares outstanding. No stock consolidation. We just started low and we keep it low. And we have 27.5% ownership. The people that are on this chart and people very closely related to us. And Vizsla, which is a silver company going into making plans to go into production, $600 million market cap. They own 9.6% of us. And we'll talk a little bit more about how that came about when we talk about the property. So I will turn it over to you, Steve. Here you go. And I'll gladly change the slide for you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Alain. Well, just a very brief bio on myself before I get started. I'm an exploration geologist, as Alain was mentioning. I'm one of the technical group in the company. I've got about 35 years experience in the business now, and 24 years of that was spent with a company called Imperial Metals, a mid-tier operator in British Columbia. Over the time that I was there, we built and operated 5 mines, and I spent most of my time focusing on exploration when I was there, and the big milestone for me would have been doing the deep drilling at Red Chris. So that's a porphyry deposit in northern British Columbia, where when we bought the project in 2007, everybody thought it was another typical little low-grade BC porphyry, and we spent 5 years drilling deep holes, more than 1 kilometer deep. And by the time we were done that, we'd proven that it was a world-class giant with 24 million ounces of gold and 16 billion pounds of copper, and it's even grown some since then. So we went ahead and built the mine, and now that's a mine that's operated by Newmont Corporation. So what that experience did for me, though, is it made me fall in love with big copper. And when I talk about big copper, I mean the type of exploration play that really one drill hole can move the needle, because you really prove up so much metal with each drill hole, and that's why we're very focused on the hot breccia project that we've got down in Arizona. This is one of the most productive copper belts on the face of the planet. This is the type of place that you want to go if you're looking for those big copper plays. And you can see our hot breccia project is very centrally located within the belt. We have world-class deposits in every direction. Morenci is the biggest one of them all, 100 kilometers to the east of us, with 75 billion pounds of total contained copper, and it'll continue to operate, I'm sure, for many decades to come. An absolutely amazing deposit, and it's been in production for over 100 years. 35 kilometers to the south of us is San Manuel, which is a very well-known deposit. It was the basis of Lowell and Gilbert's classic geological paper in 1970 that basically described porphyry copper deposits. So very important deposit, and it was North America's first block cave. And just to the northwest of us, 40 kilometers, is Resolution. Resolution is one of the greatest exploration discovery stories in the history of our business. And current resource there is 1.8 billion tons of 1.53% copper. It's only partially drilled off. We know that they stopped drilling where they had a land swap in consideration, and talking to the geologists there, they think that based on the geometry that they're seeing, it could be as much as twice as big as that. So it could be a 3 billion tons of 1.5+% copper. So an absolute monster. And as we go through the presentation, you'll see why I focus so much on Resolution, because it actually has a lot of very similar geological features and a similar geological setting to Hot Breccia. I'll also mention that Hot Breccia is very well located from an infrastructure perspective. We've got a highway going through the property. We've got an hour-and-a-half drive to both Phoenix and Tucson, so very close. And we've got a smelter immediately next door. So from a logistical perspective, not too much better that you can get to than Hot Breccia for an exploration project. Now, turning our focus to the geology, you can see the cross-section here that was actually produced by a gentleman named Briggs. He was doing a summary of the Christmas mine, which is a small mine immediately next door to Hot Breccia. It produced from 1905 until 1982, moderate amount of high-grade copper mineralization. So about 25 million tons of 1.5% copper was the total production from that mine. And the Christmas mine geology is represented on the left-hand side of that image you see there with the 3 blue units at the top. Those are the limestones that host the mineralization at Christmas. And what happened was there was a fault that dropped the right-hand geology down, and you can see those 3 blue units over on the right-hand side at the Hot Breccia property. They've been dropped down at least 400 meters, and there's a cover unit sitting over top of it, the Williamson Canyon Volcanics, and they're masking what's going on down below in the limestones. Now, the fault that separated those two sides was actually exploited by an intrusive, which came in. It was a multi-stage porphyritic intrusive. So the type of intrusive that you want to see to produce a mineralized system. And it brought hot acidic fluids laden with metals into the system. And when those hot acidic fluids reacted with the limestones, the blue units, there's a chemical reaction that changed the chemistry of the fluid, and it caused the metals to drop out. That's why you get that beautiful high-grade mineralization at Christmas Mine. And we think that same ore-forming process probably took place at depth at the Hot Breccia property as well, but we can't see it because of the volcanics that are sitting on top. Now, at this point, I'll just tell you about Resolution. If you wanted to describe the situation of Resolution, you could use this exact same slide. Right next door to Resolution was a small high-grade mine called Magma that produced for several decades, and it would have been up in the equivalent of the left-hand side where a Christmas mine is. It produced about 20 million tons of 5% copper over several decades, and then it permanently closed in the mid-1990s. But when it closed down, the operators said, well, this is a very interesting system, obviously. Let's go and see if there's something at the roots of this system. And it took them a few years, but they did some good exploration, and eventually they tapped into the 1.6 billion tons of 1.6% copper at Resolution. So, an amazing discovery story, mostly because of the depth of the mineralization. It's actually 1.2 kilometers down to the top of that deposit and 2 kilometers down to the bottom of it. So it's a very deep deposit, and the fact that they were able to find it is quite a great story from a geological investigation perspective. We've got a much better situation at Hot Breccia because it's only 400 meters down, not 1.2 kilometers down to the top of our prospective geology. So we think that we've got a much shallower but very analogous situation to Resolution. we go to the next slide? Now that's the thesis of, or the theory of why we should be doing exploration at Hot Breccia. It sounds pretty good so far, but we actually have empirical evidence that there is a mineralizing system going on at depth. And that's shown in this photograph here. You'll note the name of the property is Hot Breccia. Well, these breccia deposits that we find at surface on our property are Mother Nature's sampling program, where pressures were built up by that ore forming process at depth. And when they were released, it was a very violent and sudden process where the rocks got broken up down below. And these angular fragments that you see in the image on the right-hand side are pieces of rock that came up from as much as 1 kilometer or more depth and were brought to surface in a molten magma. And when the magma solidified, it froze all of those fragments of rock in place so that we could come along and view them. And when we take a close look at those angular fragments, we see that a lot of them are limestones that are highly mineralized and altered. And some of them are intrusives, also mineralized and altered. So really interesting and quite frankly, proof positive that there is a mineralizing system going at depth. And if we can go to the next slide, Alain. Here we see one of our project geologists, Octavio. He was out earlier this year and mapping some of those individual fragments that we find in the breccias. And you can see these brown rocks that are in the image, like the one on the left-hand image. That's a fragment of garnet magnetite skarn. It used to be a limestone. But it's not recognizable as a limestone anymore because it's been so thoroughly altered, and it's also highly mineralized. That rock actually averages 5.7% copper. So this is proof positive that we have the mineralizing system at depth, also proof positive that it's pretty high grade. And so very interesting thing to realize based on this surface geology. So we're not the first ones to think about this. We'll go to the next slide. And there was a guy named Larry Barrett that went out and mapped all the rocks on our property, and he identified these breccias and recognized the significance of them. He went to work for Kennecott after he finished his master's thesis and convinced the guys at Kennecott that they should go and acquire this property and then do some deep drilling to test to see if there's a big mineralizing system at depth. And so they drilled 6 holes in the 1970s. They sure enough, went down through the barren volcanic unit and then got into the highly altered and mineralized carbonates down below. We have been able to recover certain old reports and memos describing the mineralization, but we don't actually have all the assay results. Those are in Rio Tinto's files, and we haven't been able to convince them to release them yet. But we do have some of the results from the old reports and memos, and you can see that we've actually got several samples that were over 1% copper, and there's actually some samples that were over 3% copper. So we have seen that there is high grade mineralization at depth here. So the program was going well. They were having success. They were finding what they wanted to find, but then timing worked against them. And in the early 1980s, the price of copper really fell off. And a lot of things that were economic became uneconomic. As a matter of fact, the Christmas mine immediately next door permanently closed in 1982 and was dismantled at that time. So the project really just lost momentum. They didn't have any incentive to go and find this deeper copper deposit if the mine next door was shut down and no longer an option for processing the ore. So fast forward now to the early 2000s, and Linus Keating was a fellow who was working for Kennecott. He was their regional manager in the Tucson office. And one of the little projects that he came up with was to go out and he'd heard about this drilling program, and he wanted to resample the bottom of the holes to see if there was any gold mineralization in there. So he re-logged the core and resampled it, and didn't find much in the way of gold, but he was absolutely awestruck by the thoroughness and the extent of the alteration and the mineralization that he saw in these drill holes. And so he filed that away in the back of his mind. And now go ahead another decade. Kennecott, actually their claims expired, so the claims were dropped and they needed room in the warehouse, so they actually had the core hauled to the dump and threw it out. And so an absolute crying shame that sort of thing happens, but it does happen. But it was good news for Linus because he was retired from from Kennecott, and he remembered what great mineralization he had seen here, and so he went out and staked the property and reacquired it. And we're the first company to come in and have an option to do exploration on this. So we're the first guys to come in with a fresh set of eyes in over 50 years, picking up where they left off with the exploration back in the 1970s. Not only do we have a fresh set of eyes, but we also have a modern day exploration toolkit. So we've got a lot of exploration techniques and technologies available to us today that were not available to the guys in the 1970s. And we'll go ahead one slide, Alain. And the first thing that we did was actually conduct a ZTEM survey. So ZTEM is a powerful geophysical technique that is good at identifying conductive rocks at depth. And you can see this pink blob that's in the right-hand image. This is a big conductive anomaly, at least 1.5 kilometers long. And it's sitting at depth right down where those limestones should be. Well, limestones should not be conductive rocks. And so there's a good conductive anomaly down there. Why is that? And one good explanation for that could be that if the rocks are highly mineralized in copper, they'll make a good conductor. And so this is an excellent drilling target for us to go after. It gives us a very good way of vectoring into the center of the system. And what we've done is we've actually gone one step further. We've employed a company out of California that's an AI company, and they're reprocessing that data to see if we can actually further refine where that anomaly is. This is a surface projection of the anomaly. You can see the red outline there. That's that pink blob that's projected to surface, about 1.5 kilometers long. And you can see the purple outline that's somewhat coincident with it. The purple outline is actually the outline of the resolution deposit, and we just slid it 40 kilometers to the southeast so we could do a size comparison. And the size of anomaly that we're looking at is of the same scope and scale as a resolution type target. So this is a real swinging for the fences opportunity for us. If we connect and find what we're looking for at depth here, this could be a real game changer for Prismo Metals. So that's a fairly good description of Hot Breccia. We're planning to embark on a drill program where we're going to have 5 drill holes about 1,000 meters long each. So it'll be a 5,000 meter long program. And we'll embark on that as soon as we have the funding in place and get to work drilling. It's going to take probably a 3 to 4 weeks to drill each one of those 1,000 meter long holes. And so we'll be drilling for much of the remainder of the year, and then results will come out following the drilling. Yeah, go ahead, please, Lynn. So going forward to what's big in the news today, this is the Palos Verdes project in the Panuco district down in Mexico. Peter McGaw was correcting my pronunciation of Panuco, so hopefully I'm getting it right today. This is a
much better than me, Steve.
Well,
I'm still struggling.
We both have to work on it, obviously. This is a very exciting project for us. I mean, we've been following the news. I'm sure you have been of Vizsla next door. They just released a PEA. It's one of the most robust PEAs that has come out in our industry in recent times. Very good looking project. This is a bonanza grade silver district. We get very high grade mineralization here, and our project is on the east side of the district. We're surrounded on 3 sides by Vizsla. And the idea is that we've got a vein, the Palos Verdes vein, that's identified on our property. We've got about a 750 meter strike length of potential there. And there's a more detailed look at it. You can see the vein is very well defined on the west side of the property. Is showing up as the red there. And we do have a fault that comes through the middle of the property. We believe that there's a downward movement on the east side of that fault and some displacement, and we've been able to find sniffs of mineralization on the east side, but we believe that with some deeper drilling we'll be able to tap back into the vein again. So that's the idea with this drill program, is actually to do some deeper drilling. Now, we couldn't really back up far enough to get a good deep cut, and you can see on the cross section what we're planning to do to get that deeper cut. We need to actually back up onto the Vizsla ground. And we've got a good cooperative working relationship with them. We have a technical committee that is comprised of Dr. Peter McGaw, Dr. Craig Gibson, who is our VP, our Chief Exploration Officer, and then Dr. Jesus Valador, who is the VP of Exploration for Vizsla. So these three guys get together, share information from both sides, and talk about how to approach exploration. And it was generally agreed that we needed to back up to the south to collar and get a deeper cut on these geometries. And so Vizsla has gone ahead and actually permitted those drill pads that you see in both the purple and green. And that'll be our two-phase drill program, which is to go and try to see if we can get some definition on this system a little bit deeper down. So that's why the excitement today is we've actually announced that our crews are going to be mobilizing to the field early to mid next week, and then the drill crew will follow shortly after that.
Steve, do you want to comment on past drilling here? I've got put up the slide with some of the highlights of past drilling.
Yeah, this is just an amazing bonanza grade silver and gold. Actually, there's very significant gold in this district. And you can see, 3.2 kilos over 1.15 meters, 11.5 kilos over half a meter. When you're starting to quote your silver equivalent grades in kilos per ton instead of ounces per ton, you know that you're getting into some pretty high grade mineralization, and that's definitely the case here. So we've also been watching some of Vizsla's news releases recently. Before they announced their PEA, they had some exploration results that were coming out, and they're still finding amazing mineralization in this district. I was watching one of the webinars that was on earlier today that Vizsla had, and I think he's the chief operations officer, was talking about how they were doing condemnation drilling for the mill and actually found a new vein. So lots left to be discovered in this district, including on the Palos Verdes property.
Yeah.
I think we can go to questions, Mario, if you're ready.
Yes, of course, as always. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Excellent presentation. Does anybody have some question? Derive.
Yes, Mario. This intersection on this hole, how deep you hit that kind of result? Oh,
I'm sorry, Yves, you're asking how deep the 11.5 kilo intercept was?
Yeah, the holes, the result, is it very, very deep at surface?
It's not very deep. It's not at surface. Actually, a lot of these veins, interestingly enough, don't have much in the way of grade rate at surface, but I believe this intercept is in the order of 200 meters below surface.
Steve, there's a question on the chat. Do you see it?
Oh, I'll take a look.
I'll read it for you. Which project is your main goal to success?
You want me to take that one, Alain, or do you want to take it?
Well, I like the way you described the fact that, A, your philosophy about keeping good projects, and B, that each project will receive what they're in need of this year. So I think that'd be a nice way to address it. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the lessons I've learned in my career is when you've got a good project, don't give up on it. They're hard to come by. And I really believe that we've got three very strong projects at Prismo Metals. And each one of those projects is going to get what it needs this year. The need at Hot Breccia is for a deep drilling program, so that's going to take the biggest budget. But equally important to us is the drilling program at Palos Verdes. This is a project that could really have some near-term returns for us, and so defining more mineralization on this very substantial vein that we've already identified is going to be really critical to us in the very short term for us. And then at Los Pavitos, we've got orogenic gold belt project where we don't talk about it as much, but there's some very important work going on there. And what we need to do now is get boot leather on bedrock. In our first drill program, we actually had an intercept that was over 6.5 meters of 10.2 grams gold. and 47 grams silver, proving that we've got this orogenic gold system on the property. And what we need to do now is get our geologists out in the field, get them doing the mapping, prospecting, and ground geophysics that is going to set us up for a strong drill program the next time we get a drill onto the property. So we've got really 3 fronts that we're progressing forward at the same time, and I think all 3 projects are quite deserving of the work they're going to receive.
Yeah, very good. There's also another question in the chat.
Mario,
Yeah.
Mario, before we go to the next one, maybe if I could expand on what Steve is. Thank you. And then, so taking what Steve said, so there's correlate that with the potential upside. So I think it's a little early to talk about Los Pavitos upside, other than generally speaking, it's a large project and it has a lot of potential. But in terms of Palos Verdes, last time we drilled the west side of the property, and if you look here, I'm trying to get this to move. Yeah, so the first 2 holes are the black ones here that are on the right side of the fault, which is sort of grayish thing. And last time we drilled the west side of the fault, we had tremendous drilling results and assays, as you can see, some of the highlights, and that was in late 2022, and the market reacted favorably. I think we went up to 73 cents. So a lot of our legacy shareholders are very keen on Palos Verdes, as you can tell also by the market reaction today. Now, in terms of, call it upside at Hot Breccia, it is also possibly imminent, but I'll defer to Steve to maybe tell the story of Hercules Silver, where through one good drill hole, how they were successful in changing their market cap significantly.
Yeah, Hercules Silver is a really amazing story. It's a company based in Vancouver that went and assembled a nice set of properties down in Idaho that had silver veins on them. So it's a historic silver district. And they decided to do one deep hole to see what was underneath at the roots of the system. Does that sound familiar? And sure enough, they tapped into a nice deep porphyry copper system. And on the basis of one drill hole, they were able to go from a $30 million market cap to a $300 million market cap in a matter of a few days. Barrick came in and funded them for the next $25 million. So they're a well-funded junior that's climbing in value, and they're starting to drill off this deeper porphyry system. And I think to me, that just speaks to the amount of desperation there is on the major side. These guys don't have much in their pipeline for major copper projects to replace the reserves that are being exhausted in their current mines. And I think that there's our discovery rate in the last 15 years has really gone down to 0. It was nice. We saw M&A activity yesterday. Filo's being taken over for over $4 billion. And that's one of the few discoveries that's been made in recent times. And so there's a lot of people or a lot of companies that are clamoring to get a piece of that. And I think that the type of exploration play that we have at Hot Breccia is something that's really going to be watched.
Steve, talking about Hot Breccia, how big is
Quick question.
Resolute deposit in Arizona? And the
Resolution is about 1.6 billion tons of 1.6% copper. And that's as far as it's been drilled off to date. It could be as much as twice as big as that, Mario.
Okay. And now about Vizsla Silver, how big is their deposit?
Vizsla Silver is, I don't remember the numbers right off the top of my head. They've got something like 140 million ounces in their eye and one.
I got it here, Steve. Yeah, hold on. Put it here.
The amazing thing about Vizsla is their grade is so spectacular. It's over 500 grams per ton silver equivalent, and that really puts them head and shoulders above most of their peers.
Do you see it, Steve?
What do we have there? Yeah, or 155 million ounces M&I, and 170 million ounces in the inferred category. So not supposed to add them together, but to me that looks like over 300 million ounces.
Very good. I know there was a question in the chat, but also I think Mr. Koch, you have a question.
Okay. Yeah, there was a question in the chat about institution, and nobody follows us formally from a research standpoint.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of called investment bankers that follow us closely and very much interested in working with us. So stay tuned.
Alain, you got forward to drill the hot Breccia. Eventually, you are going to announce financing.
Yeah. So the entire drilling program budget is $2 million US.
2 million,
So,
okay.
$2 million US, yeah. Rounded up to 3 Canadian, and we, as I alluded to, we've been in discussions with people. One of the things we wanted to do was to do what we did, announce that we're mobilizing at Palos Verdes. We're glad to see the markets reacting the way we were expecting it to react, and the only hesitation I have on timing, Mario, is just the summer holidays. But Steve and I have been to Europe, and we've been out east, and highly confident that we'll get this done real quick.
Okay, very good. Excellent. Any other question?
Yes. Just to be sure, you talk about the work on the hot Breccia. Okay, the budget will be 2 million US, but how many meters you will drill and how many holes?
We're expecting it to be 5 drill holes, each of them 1,000 meters long, so a total of 5,000 meters.
Okay, perfect. And for Palos Verdes, it's 3,000 meters.
Yes, total, but in phases.
Okay, in phase. And when you will do this, when you will drill hot Breccia, it will be in August, September.
That's correct.
Perfect. And the other Palos Verdes, when you will drill,
The crews are going to be on site next week, right? So they have a little bit of work to do, right? And on site, but the crews will be there next week. Yeah.
Okay, and you would drill in October. When?
Oh, as soon as I mean the drill crews are going, so as soon as they're set up, right? I think they got to look for there's a little bit of work to do on the pads that are permitted by Vizsla and so on and so forth. But assume that drill crews are there next week, and I don't know exactly how long it will take for the machine to turn. I don't know, maybe 2 weeks, a week and a half.
Okay, but it will be do this autumn.
Oh, it'll be this month. Absolutely, Yves. Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Perfect,
There'll be a drill. There'll be a drill turning at Palos Verdes in August for sure.
Okay, but if I understand, you will have like 2 different source of catalyst. The result from
very much so,
and the other on silver. Okay, very interesting.
Very much so. Yes.
Alain, on Palos Verdes, when can we expect result? September? Is that the?
Yeah, I'll let Steve comment. It's shallower, and it's it will be quicker than the deep holes in Arizona, and and we're going to do the assays locally in Mexico, so the turnaround time can be very quick.
And what's your strategy when you're putting out your result? I know some company, they like to put one hole at the time, like to keep the market. But some they like to take all the results.
I'll give my capital markets answer, Mario. I'll let Steve talk geology. But as I mentioned early on, I'm not a mining guy, but what I know I got from in great part from McGaw, Gibson, and Robertson. And if you talk to to McGaw, his philosophy would be you drill everything you're planning to drill, then you analyze the results, and then you tell the market what you found. And that's, you know, that's because he's used to large market cap companies for which a one drill hole might not be material. He does realize, though, that you know, if you got a $12 million market cap, it's probably better to communicate with the market more frequently. And while he's never been thrilled about hole by hole, he's been okay with that, and that's been our past practice. Is to, and at Palos Verdes, you know, maybe we'll do 2 holes, but we tend to be giving market updates on quite regular basis. What's your experience, Steve?
You can expect spectacular result from there, because there has been spectacular result from Vizsla Silver. So,
well, it'd be, let's put it this way. I mean, it's, and again, that's my capital markets hat on, but that would be my my expectations, right? I mean, it would be consistent with what Vizsla has been doing on the west side of the district. But what's your experience, Steve, on announcing 1 hole versus at the end of a complete program?
I think I'll probably sit somewhere between you and Peter in regard to frequency. I mean, I believe in grouping the results together rather than one holing the market to death. I would prefer to see the results come out in a logical sequence that would make sense, grouping, you know, results together as needed and putting it out to the market. Of course, if we have something that's very material, then we would get that out to market sooner. But you know, I don't like to forecast the frequency that we would be reporting on, because we don't really know what we're going to encounter and what other factors are going to play into putting news out to the market.
Just a question I have, Terry here. What would be the Palos Verdes results that can facilitate the deal for the capitalization for the other party? Number one. Number two is that what would be the results that you think you're going to keep that rather than make a deal? What's the critical mass you're talking about here?
That's a $50 million question, eh? Oh gosh, I love that question.
45 million. Give me one.
Okay, let's do the 25. I'll give you the $25 million question answer. So Terry, if you look at the map there, the concession boundaries are in yellow. You see the vein expression on the west side of the fault. You can tell that there's surface expression on Vizsla's property on the west side of ours, and it reappears on the northeast. And if you look at how this thing we think might dip down, then it dips down towards the Vizsla property on the east side, southeast side of. So yeah, so let me answer it this way. So let's say we're successful in finding something. I am not one that would want to necessarily wait to try and maximize everything. Now I put myself in Mike Connor's shoes, who's our partner he's the CEO of Vizsla. He's all about feeding a mill that they will be constructing. So there is a point, there is a decision point from Vizsla, which I would describe as moving the needle for them, right? Where we would enter into the discussions as to what do we do with Palos Verdes. They have a right of first refusal, but it very much looks like, you know, Mike and I had the right idea a year and a half ago, which is do the exploration program by ignoring that yellow line. And that's exactly what we're doing now. Now, you know, how much is going to be ours? How much is going to be theirs? It will make for some excellent discussions. And as I'm saying this, Terry, might actually need to get independent third-party
valuation.
opinion.
Yeah. But their mill needs feed. And how big are their mill again?
Well, do you know how much they're trying to, Steve, putting together? What the plan
No,
is?
I don't recall that.
But they think they have a mine life of 11 years based on, based on this, Terry.
On their PEA, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
It
an
says right
asset.
there, planned 3,300 ton per day production.
There you go. 10 years plus. Yeah.
That's a pretty significant mill. So in other words, that's a leverage point for you in terms of source of capital or source of deals or source of valuation. And remind me again, how many millions or how much you're going to allocate for Palos Verde?
The first phase is $380,000 Canadian.
Okay.
And then we will analyze what we find in the first 1,250 meters, and then we'll reassess and we will continue. So, but if you look at the entirety of so I'm talking phase one here. So for the entirety of the plan program is 3,000 meters, and our estimated cost in the US all in, our estimated cost in US dollars all in is just a nudge over $200 US. So that gives you the total program, which would be 600,000 US.
So Alain and Steve, you will be in a position to analyze this with or without a third party opinion by when? By before the year end?
Yes.
With results? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So we can see a possible recapitalization of the firm, source of funds, asset swaps, whatever, by Christmas or New Year's.
That's my hope. So it's a doable timeline.
Yeah. So the hole is going to be completed 300,000 meters. I'm sorry, 3,000 meters. No, how much is that? 3,000 meters. By when for the Palos Verde? By end of September?
Steve, what?
Yeah, we'll probably be wrapped up the drill. The first 1,250 meters will be wrapped up mid-September, something like that. Late September.
Okay.
And then we'll analyze, right? And then we'll see what else. If you see Steve, Terry, sorry, and it's actually well laid out in the press release, right? So, and you might want to tell Terry here, Steve, about the east side of the fault, right? The goal of those holes is different than on this side, right? So if you could take Terry through the difference between the west side of the fault and the east side and the objectives.
Yeah, so the east side of the fault, we're expecting the geology has been dropped down, and we don't know if there's rotation on that. We don't know if there's any strike slip movement on that. And so this is very much more exploratory in nature. The stuff that's on the west side of the fault is, well, let's just go and drill the structures down deeper and see if we can extend that mineralization. But on the east side, we still have some geometry to figure out. And we know that there are a number of structures there that are of interest. And you can see in the section that's on the left-hand side of that slide that there's a flat line structure, which, by the way, tends to carry a lot more gold mineralization than the steeper ones. The steeper ones tend to be the big, fatter, silver-dominated veins. And all of these things, we want to figure out where they went to on the east side of the fault, and we have a pretty good feeling we know where, but you never know until you actually get the drill going.
I think you said it many times, but I just want to bring it up again. You don't think that the value of Breccia or Palos Verde is not in the stock price right now? You're getting it for free, right? That's what it is, as a shareholder. Am I right?
That's my view.
Okay.
Guys, I have a question. Steve and Alain, who do you think would as a silver producer in Mexico would understand this geological model?
Well, one of the most significant silver producers now is Fresnillo, the
Okay.
partner at Juanicipio, who's now developing one of the most significant silver mines in the country. This one is going to rank shoulder to shoulder with that, I believe.
Is there a target for a producer in the silver business where they, like in Quebec, like it's 5 to 10 million ounce silver? Can we think about 500 million ounce as a, like where a major would start to look into a project and, like.
That's a big number, Mario. 500 million
know.
ounces is a big
Yeah, but
number.
they're already at 370 right now.
Yeah, but the mining rate is a bit different.
Well,
You
I
don't
saw
mine
in
it
a
that fast in
PEA.
the vein deposits. You can't mine it that fast.
I saw in a PEA they had grade. Well, in PEA, okay, 228 grams.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, well,
it's a
even
PEA.
500 plus gram silver equivalent is their head grade from the M&I
Okay.
portion of the resource. So it's this is going to definitely be a high grade mine or a high grade district when it goes into production. I really think it's very significant. It'll be ranked significant globally, is my opinion. And so I think it's going to stand shoulder to shoulder with some of the best.
Yeah, very good. One more question before we close the show. Anybody?
Just maybe just the financial question about what is the cash for the company and what is the burn rate if we don't consider the money on the exploration, only the G&A.
350,000 would be the fixed G&A, which are the pop code costs
That's for
Annually.
per year.
Annually.
annually.
Mr.
Yeah.
Kosh, I know you have a question.
Yes, pleasure to meet everybody.
Okay.
Getting to the hot Breccia project, do you find that there's going to be difficulty going through the volcanic settlement, and how far? You said 2 drill holes of 2,500 meters.
No, 5 drill holes, 1,000 meters each. We expect that volcanic unit is probably about 400 meters thick. And one of the things that really gives me a lot of reassurance about the ground conditions on the property is that we go back and take a look at the drill holes that are over 50 years old, and we can still drop a pebble down the collar of the drill hole and hear it rattling all the way to the bottom. So those drill holes are still open all the way down to, I think they were in the order of 3,300 feet deep, those old drill holes. So pretty impressive ground conditions in the area. I suspect that the drill conditions are going to be good.
Steve,
And
they're
the
going to be
permit-
down dip. The holes, the 5 holes they're going to be down dip.
Yeah, we're not going to actually set in stone exactly the attitude of the drill holes yet until we have the final results from the AI study, and those guys are reinterpreting the geophysics for us, and we'll wait to see that before we finalize all of the drill holes. But we expect that they're all going to be relatively steep, either vertical or probably not less than -70.
Okay, thank you very much.
We'll start vertical way. Steve, you want to explain that, and then?
Well, the first hole that we're going to probably drill is going to be, we're taking a look at the old drill logs from the 70s, and we want to start in their best hole that we know was well into the hydrothermal system. And then on the basis of surface geology, geophysics, and all the other pieces of evidence that we can pull together, we'll work our way out into the system from there. And we'll take a look at those sophisticated vector indicators that we have, the alteration and that sort of thing, and the metal zonation to tell us whether we're going away from the heat source or toward the heat source. And of course, we want to go toward the heat source because that's usually where the center of the system is, and that's where most of the copper is.
So
very
when do
good.
you expect? I apologize.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
I have a couple of questions. When do you expect permit?
You're the last question because we're going to be finishing in at that.
I
at 50.
could call up Steve or call up Alan. not a problem.
Okay, very good. I
I just
apologize
want
because
to
that's going to be
know
the
when
time of the. Sorry, go ahead.
permit finalization.
We have our permits. Permits are in place, so we're ready to go.
Very good. On this, I'm gonna end the show. Steve and Alain, thank you very much. Prismo metal symbol PRIZ on the CSC, trading around 23 to 25 cents. Good day today. We're up. We're up at 24%. So keep up putting out those good news. And if any of you don't have the contact of Steve and Alain, it will be a pleasure for us to give it to you on this. Thank you very much, everybody, for your time, and
Thank you,
we'll be
guys.
in touch soon. Merci beaucoup, Terry. You wanna say
Denny,
last word?
Denny, can you call me? Denny, can you call me back, please? Denny
Yes,
Olsen? Okay.
yes.
Okay.
All right.
Right away.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Thanks,
Merci
guys. Thanks,
beaucoup.
everybody.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Bye,
Have a
guys.
good.
Bye.
Thank you. Merci. Bye bye.
Bye now.
Thank you.